Hey everybody, my name is Dion and this is Daryl.
Hi.
Welcome to Where We Stand, a series where we talk about the games we've recently played and discuss how much we may or may not have enjoyed them. Today we're talking about A Way Out, which is available for the PC, PS4, and Xbox One. We will be discussing spoilers. Now that we're queued up and ready to go, let's get started. Let's talk a little bit about our previous experience with A Way Out.
Sure, I'll get that part started. I didn't play Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons, which was another game directed by the director of A Way Out, who I think also plays one of the characters in the game, I'm pretty sure. But I heard good things about Brothers. So when I heard that he was making this game, and by heard I mean I was watching the Game Awards and he said fuck the Oscars, I'm like, I like this guy. So I want to play his game. That was literally my literal thought. So I was sold the moment that Joseph Fares, I believe is how you pronounce his name. I was sold from the jump. That's how I started. I didn't really have much of an attachment before that, though.
Well, for me, I did play some of Brothers. I did not realize that this was the same director before we played, but I played exactly 2 hours of Brothers. I don't know why I know that, but I did. I didn't finish it. It was good, but I think I ran into some challenges and I never got to just get through it. And then I did see this come out, and I remember when it first came out, I was like, oh, I need someone to play this with me. I really wanted to play it because the idea of this fun co-op experience, which is usually my favorite parts in gaming, is co-op. So being able to do that, I was completely sold. So that's really what got me, pulled into this experience.
And if that's all we're talking about when it comes to going over the series and how we got into X, Y, and Z, then we could just move on to a quick summary of the story, which I think I'll take that over. In A Way Out, you play as either, I almost wanted to say Leo, different game, Leo or Vincent, as they work together to escape from prison and get revenge on a man named Harvey who did them both dirty. I'll tell you what. He's an underground crime lord. Essentially, you make a deal with the devil. You're gonna get the horns. You're gonna get the burn. You get the point. Don't do that. They learned that the hard way. Anyway, the two of them are convicted prisoners, and they must brave the world as they try to make the best of the cards they've been dealt.
Great, yeah, that's a very easy, quick summary of the game. And I just want to briefly talk about some of the key points that happen. It only laid out some of the really, really big ones. So, for instance, breaking from the prison, I think, was a key point in the story. I thought this was the full game. Let's be honest. From all those reviews, and then we actually broke out. I was like, wait. I thought the game was going to just be breaking out of prison. They're like, no, it's the whole thing. And I didn't realize that. So it was a very good surprise for me that we break out of prison in the first, couple hours. And I'm like, okay, there's more to this. So that was the first key point. And then we kind of move through the story, and you escape from prison, you see the families, and then you eventually get to the hospital.
Before we get to the hospital, I just want to point out that before we even started playing, I was already apparently fairly familiar with A Way Out. I've seen it in a few streams and whatnot. I just didn't know how much I saw. So when we were going through the prison portion and you were surprised, like you said, that wasn't the end of the game, I was like, oh no, I remember more than I think I do. So that was pretty interesting. Even then, though, it was still it kept my attention regardless, and that's not an easy thing to do when you've been through something like that before, especially when you're playing it. But continue.
Well, and there was this funny moments when we're like jumping, or we're like doing a
wasting time,
or we get to a scene and you kind of know, like, oh, we've successfully done it, and you've seen how it goes badly. So that was also interesting, having those other points, because you knew a little bit about what happens. Well, a lot of it. Let's go a lot of it. What happens.
Yeah, it was a lot of bit.
But you get to the hospital, which is kind of the next big point. And there's multiple things happen before this, but the hospital, I think, is a big turning point for me. This is when Vincent his wife is having the baby that you knew about for a little bit by this point, that it was going to happen, and here we are. And you get to the hospital, you get in, and then it just goes nuts. Like the police come, and it's just amazing, like how you get away and escape from this hospital while everyone's chasing you. It's literally, for me, I think this was probably the high point. Or getting, maybe not there, but it was very high rising action. It wasn't at the climax, but we're like very close at this point.
We got to the point where that section, and I know this would bleed into gameplay a bit, but I'm not going to talk about gameplay right now. But I will say that's around the point in time when you realize that you're not always tethered to your friend, like in the same environment. Like they do a lot of cool things with the camera work and whatnot that kind of, if anybody were walking by you right now, or not right now, but as you're playing that part of the hospital mission. I say mission, but hospital level, I guess. They would probably think you're playing a single player game, and depending on the camera angle, they might think you're playing a different kind of single player game over and over and over again. This game likes to blend genres a lot, but we could talk about that later. Either way around, the hospital section I agree, was definitely a high point. Like it was already rising from the jump, from the barn scene to now, or to that point. But even then, that's kind of where the game started kicking in a high gear, and with its action and whatnot, more direct action, less reactionary, and more. I'm gonna say we kind of brought up Uncharted, where it's just a series of accidents that just so happen to work out.
Oh man.
So if you played Uncharted 2 and you jump into a way out, you'll know what to expect by the halfway point of the game, which I think is where the hospital is. But you were saying, Dion?
And then I was just going to go into the final battle. So the final battle, and just a prelude to the final battle, getting to the final battle, which is you are finally getting to Harvey. You finally get to Harvey, and you get to that. You're going after him, and you're chasing them with guns, which is a third-person shooter. Interesting. And you capture him, and then you find out that Mr. Vincent decides to be a cop and completely has betrayed, in a sense, Leo. I mean, Leo is technically bad, so
he's a thief with honor.
Yes, the thief with honor
for the most part.
You were kind of voting for Leo as well as you're voting for Vincent, so that betrayal is it's a big turning point. But
yeah, because they're both good people on the inside, but they're both also fathers, really good fathers, or one wants to be, and the other one is. But they made some poor life decisions.
They make you really attach you to these characters, and then you start battling against your friend, and that is it's great. And then the payoff is excellent. And I only saw one side. You might have seen the two. I lost as Vincent. I won the shootout, to be fair, but then there's this last piece, and
yeah,
he won the X button press because he uses his index finger. We're not going to get into that.
Weird. Tell me in the comments if that's a weird thing. Does anyone else use their index finger and like just their whole arm muscle to like jackhammer their X button when they want to win those things? Because that's what I do.
It was unbelievable. I didn't get a head start because I won the shootout, and I still lost. Unbelievable, guys! I'm telling you. But
I did ask you, to be fair, I did ask you, did you want me to actually try to win, or do you want me to go based off my bias? Because my bias was I wanted Vincent to win.
Well, I wanted a challenge, and I lost the challenge. But it did go well, and I did like the payoff, even though we ended up with Vincent's death. I thought the payoff was very good of how it ended. And you take the letter to his wife for him. I just love that. I thought the ending was still very good, and I still felt very satisfied.
Still good ending. Yeah.
And I didn't go back and watch if Leo would have died. You know what I mean? So I didn't feel like I needed to. I still felt like, okay, this was the story for us, and we closed it, and I enjoyed that experience.
All right, sure. And from the, go ahead.
I was gonna say, overall, for me, I think the story was 100% great. I really enjoyed it, and I think it was worth it. I think there's some parts that are slower. Like the jailbreak actually is not the most exciting compared to other things that happen in this game. There are some slow points, so you have to be aware of that, I think. What are your thoughts on the story?
I think the story is really good overall. It definitely deserves the praise that it gets. It's I'm not gonna say it's like the most groundbreaking or shattering story, but if you're looking for a damn good story with some characters that can range anywhere from meh to very interesting, like Vincent and Leo are, which of course they have to be interesting. They're your player characters. Then yeah, you would really enjoy the story. I would also say, even though this is more of a gameplay thing, play with your friend because it helps to an extent. Because if you're playing single player, I think you can go between Vincent and Leo, but I feel like having your friend control one of the characters and you guys play a random game because they have playing mini games in the game and stuff like that, you can get those moments of the characters just being goofs together, depending on what you're doing. By the way around, story was great overall.
Agreed. Now let's talk a little bit about the setting and world design. This is where we like to highlight, how we thought about the environment and the world of play. And for this game, for many games, open world is very popular, right? That's the thing that's in right now. But for this game, it's very linear. You go to different areas. So I just kind of listed a few of them. You're in the jail, which felt, I think they're pretty well designed. You got the jail, you have the outdoors, you have the hospital, which is probably my favorite right now. You got Mexico, and then the final battle, which takes place kind of over New York. New York City, kind of. Well, I'm assuming New York. It doesn't actually tell us.
The game takes place in the '60s, so insert generic '60s city. That's all I'm gonna say. But I don't know. I'll take the L on that. If anyone knows, put it in the comments. But I tried to look it up. I couldn't even find where the setting definitively is. But that's because it jumps so much. So the setting's fluid. Let's put it that way.
Yep. Now, as far as world design, I felt that the levels were designed specifically for the type of gameplay we're dealing with, and I thought they were done well. I felt the jail was very believable. How we got out, I thought, was also pretty reasonable. I didn't think it was that crazy, except crawling through ducts. It's not really a thing. It's not designed for that. But anyway, other than that, everything felt pretty believable, and I think that's important. The outdoor space was just big enough to be exciting. As you're getting away, you got going through the bridges and going under the bridge. All of that stuff felt reasonable. Obviously, there's some gameplay elements, like you were going under the bridge.
Yeah.
Obviously, all that stuff wouldn't be put together that way, but I thought it was all good. Your thoughts?
So as you were speaking, I was as I was listening to you, I was thinking, how would I kind of section off these places, just to kind of truncate them, so I'm not talking for an hour each on each thing. So I'd say the jail definitely serves as your tutorial level and whatnot.
That's true.
About an hour ish of a tutorial, where you're just supposed to get familiar with things and whatnot. The game is very familiar. The game is very forgiving with your mistakes, because you're gonna make mistakes here and there. At least it's forgiving up until when it matters, when you're towards the end of the game. Otherwise, the jail is very much your tutorial. It's supposed to be very linear, keep you in a enclosed space. Once you're outdoors, then it opens up a little bit and starts introducing the game's stealth elements and whatnot. And then by the hospital in Mexico, now you're falling into the like I said earlier, the Uncharted trap. I say trap because it's just fun to phrase it that way. And then the final battle is literally Gears. So
that's good. That's glorious.
With that said, I've enjoyed every location we've been at. I never really felt like everything was kind of. I'd say my favorite one, and you didn't put it on the list but because it wasn't as big as the other ones, but I really enjoyed the construction site.
Yes, matter of fact, the construction site, unrealistic, by the way, from my own personal experience. But other than that, I thought it was super cool, and it actually was believable though. It was awesome, and they used some catch words there that I got me, being in the construction field. So I thought that you're right. The construction was great. Actually, I might have to rank that above hospital. I don't know, maybe even, because you run through it after that guy.
There's a lot of stuff that goes on there that I think that's your first official like foray into what the hospital will later portray in a much bigger and longer way.
True.
But yeah, generally that's all I have to really say about the setting and world design. We can move on to gameplay if you're ready.
Only thing I want to add is that none of the levels stayed too long, and I think that's an important piece. That's something that happened in Assassin's Creed. Didn't happen here. It doesn't stay too long, and that's a great thing. So
yeah, if you stayed in a location too long, it's because you wanted to, or you got caught up with a mini game. Otherwise, just talk to the people you got to talk to, and you're out kind of 30 minutes roughly.
Agreed. For each level, it keeps you moving. Gameplay. Let's talk gameplay. I think this is probably the most exciting part for me on this game. Even though the story was good, I think the gameplay is very unique. The way they make you do co-op is just super cool. I just love the fact that it does it in different ways. It's not just one type of way. Like it has you controlling characters at the same time, having you control your own characters at the same time, has you switch up to different characters. I think that's cool. But what we really want to hit on first is the camera, because I think you kind of hinted at this. In the hospital is a big way, but the camera exudes the gameplay. That's the best way to put it. Like every way the camera looks, like you either split screen even though you're playing online. So I can see what Daryl's doing and what I'm doing at the same time, and it goes from vertical to horizontal depending on what type of gameplay you're in, which is weird for me because I'm on this ultra wide screen. But in a normal situation, it was super cool doing horizontal because it was like at a full space. The horizontal cut is the one that was the issue because it was really wide for me. But I thought the camera was great, and then how they transition from player to player in some parts where you're just playing. It looks like you're playing a single player game, as you mentioned. Glorious. There's nothing else to say about that. It's unique and it's fun.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. The camera is your best friend in the game. And it's also your worst enemy towards the end of the game because, as we both realized or mentioned as we were fighting each other, that we're definitely screen cheating right now. We're just looking at each other's screens, wondering where we're going as we're lighting each other up. But before that, it's your best friend, unless it's in horizontal mode, which Dion hated. So
I took exception to it. I wouldn't say hate.
I'm just taking your tone while you were playing. Whenever you were like, okay, it's gonna split. It's gonna. Oh no. No.
Oh my goodness. That's true.
That's all I can recall. I'm like, he doesn't like the horizontal line.
No, I don't. I did not like the horizontal line that much. I took a big exception to it. I didn't hate it, and it's only because I'm playing ultra wide, so it's a little jarring.
Yeah, that's fair. To be fair, I'm not really a big fan of horizontal when it comes to split screen either. I didn't like it in Halo. In the times I played Halo on the old Xbox back in the day with like cousins and whatnot, I still don't like it now. I prefer vertical.
Yeah, keep it easy. Let's talk about how the game switches up genres. I think that's a really big selling point to me. So, I mean, this game went from a cinematic, point and click. It's not really point and click. It's more like
more like what you get with like Telltale's Walking Dead or Life is Strange, stuff like that.
Yeah, button input. You're dealing with the cinematic experience. Very cinematic. Gets to a beat 'em up, which is interesting. I'll let you talk about that because that was your experience. Third-person shooter was a big part, and then driving. Go ahead and talk about beat 'em up. That was a big one.
Yeah, so it was very brief, but there was a moment in the hospital, which, by the way, Dion played Vincent, I played Leo. Leo's the more hot-headed one, and Vincent's more cool-headed. At least that's what you generally think of them, and then you realize towards the end, Vincent's just really angry on the inside. That's what he is. And Leo is just loud and angry on the outside. But he's accepted that, and he's just really chill. But anyway, Leo, there's a section where Leo is running and he confronts the cops directly. And the game, while it doesn't give you like beat 'em up controls, obviously I think that would be a waste to do like right there in the moment. You kind of just spam one button the whole time. But it's still cool because the camera goes from you're following him from his back and whatnot, and he's dipping under and over things. and then the camera pans over to the side, kind of gets rid of the outside wall so you can see what's happening inside the building. And I think he even puts up his dukes as if it was a beat 'em up, which I would hope he would, if I remember correctly, because otherwise that's not how you fight. But he's just grabbing objects and hitting the cops as they walk up to him one by one by one by one by one. And I'm like, these officers suck. But besides that, I thought that was a really fun part for just for that reason. And moments like that in the game are what keeps it fresh and keeps it from getting stale necessarily. Again, the Uncharted syndrome, where, you know, Uncharted 1 was very one note. You run, you jump, you platform, you shoot. You platform, you shoot. Then from 2 on, it's like you platform, you shoot, you puzzle, then you jump, then you dive, then your platforming fails, and you know, it's all that stuff. That's what this game is. It takes that chunk of what Uncharted is and it injects that into its veins. And I think that's what keeps it very interesting for the whole ride. The game's not that long either.
No.
And that's what it's like. For every hour you're in a different game. Let's put it that way.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, I agree. I guess closing thoughts. We both really enjoyed the gameplay. I don't think there's any way else to put it. It was fun.
Yeah, it's a really fun game. It tugs at your heartstrings if you're sensitive to that kind of stuff. You kind of they do a good job of making you not biased to one character or the other. The only reason I said I wanted Vincent to win in the end was because I'm thinking the dude's gonna be a father, but at the same time, Leo's already a father, and his kids are already aware of him. At least when the newborn is born, he won't know his dad. But that's also not good, and they're both bittersweet endings. Yeah, so no one wins. You can't choose not to shoot. You have to shoot. So there you go. Really good game.
Do you have any other final things you want to say about the game?
I'd say that A Way Out deserves all the praise that it's gotten and more. There was never a dull moment for me, and despite some awkward controls and many accidental deaths, the boat scene comes to mind because that's where we died the most. I say died, but it's really more like wrecked.
The boat scene.
We're not allowed on boats anymore, and I don't give us boats. We're not playing boat games. This game was a very good time, and one that I'd recommend to anybody looking for a fun co-op game to play with a friend. And it also makes me look forward to It Takes Two, which may or may not be played here. If not, whatever, don't care. I hear it's really good, and it got my attention immediately when I saw it was from these same devs. That's saying something, because I don't normally just hop right into the next random IP that someone makes. I'm like, oh, you're doing that thing? I don't care what it's about. You did that other thing I liked. I trust you. Take my money. You know?
Yeah, no, I'm excited for It Takes Two for sure. I can say, from my experience, Way Out is a fun and exciting co-op adventure. That is what it is, and it exudes that, which I really enjoyed. With the gameplay switching, how it switches gameplay and goes to different genres, and then how satisfying the story and ending is. It's a great time. It's worth the play.
We should also probably point out, if you do decide to get it, only one of your friends needs to get it. Only one of you needs to get it. The other one can I believe, download it for free. It depends on what you're going through, though, right?
Yeah, you can go through EA Play. For PC, you can go for EA Play. You can download it. And then it's the free trial version. And if someone invites you to a game, you can play through the full game. It saves you money. It encourages you to play with a friend because only one of you have to play. It's phenomenal, and I think they're the only ones that do it. And everyone should be doing this.
I definitely agree with that. And I think It Takes Two also follows that formula. It's a very clever business move, and I agree. More companies need to do that. I do agree with that.
I agree. So, that's our experiences. I'm going to go ahead and close this out here. I think that's all we have for now. I thank you all for stopping through to listen here at DuoQueue. If we think we might have glossed over something big or might need to expand on something, feel free to say so in the comments. We'd love to read them. And if you want to throw your own opinion in the hat, you also feel free to do that. But until then, next time you're waiting for a party or searching for a lobby, feel free to tune in again while you wait. See ya!
Don't get arrested.